Could this be one of the best budget knives of all time? Today, we're going to go on a little quest, and I'm going to compare this to some other really good budget knives, and we're going to see how this stacks up. The Civivi Altus is coming in just over 7 inches. The blade length is coming in just shy of 3. This is the version with the wooden scales. This is coming in at approximately $76. The blade is a drop point style with a flat grind that comes 3/4 the length up the blade. We have a swedge that carries out most of the length of the blade, reinforcing that tip for a little bit of strength. This is Nitro V blade steel. The sharpening choil is done pretty well in combination with that plunge grind, and you're going to have a lot of life on this blade without creating that smile. The scales on the Altus are flat, but the chamfering comes up pretty high, giving that almost pseudo feeling of contouring. The scalloping comes in really nicely here, and it's actually kind of stylish. It's thin here and then widens out right there. The hardware is all T8, except for the pocket clip screws. These are T6. The pocket clip is ambidextrous, but it is not recessed, but it is using flathead screws. We do have 2 standoffs in the back and this little dog bone which acts as the lanyard post. I'm really liking how Civivi's doing that lately. This does have an internal stop pin, seen right there. As you can see here, the liners are heavily milled out. They did a lot of weight relieving on the inside. One of the main things that makes this knife so popular is the button lock. It works really, really well, and it does feel like Civivi finally nailed the button lock. After looking at the Civivi Cogent, it feels similar, but it doesn't quite give me the feeling of this is really nice. This knife crossed that threshold into where I was like, wow. I didn't want to get this knife because of the Cogent. I really didn't like the ergonomics. It was a fine knife, but it didn't wow me. The Altus in hand is an immediate wow. It has that pop factor, that wow factor, and I think Civivi's doing a really good job of nailing their action and their fit and finish. Everything that they're doing and have been outstanding. Oh yeah, and if you guys are enjoying the content, please don't forget to hit that like button. I will never again ask anybody to subscribe. That's on you to make that choice. But if you are enjoying each video that you watch, I would greatly appreciate it if you just hit that like button for me. Rather than show your typical size comparisons, I'm actually going to show some of its competitors and talk about which one I would choose. Here it is up next to the Civivi Elementum. This is its natural competitor, as the blade styles are very similar, the sizes are very similar, and the Elementum has been king for so long. There's only 2 things that the Civivi Elementum actually has on the Altus, and that is it's a little bit more thinner, making it slightly more enjoyable to carry, and it has some modifications that you can do. It's so popular that Flightanium has made some things. Now the Altus isn't there, maybe it'll get there. I kind of don't think so, but I don't know that it needs to. Those are the only 2 things that I see with the Elementum versus the Altus. Realistically, I would choose to carry the Altus in this case. Here it is next to the QSP Penguin. This version happens to be a titanium frame lock, and this is probably the only version that I would compare it to. I think the other versions are good, but this is the best iteration of the Penguin. Now, with the Penguin, reasons that I may choose the Penguin over the Altus is that you have that titanium frame lock bug. You enjoy the titanium feel, and the Penguin's under $100. I really do enjoy that Wharncliffe blade shape that the Penguin brings, but again, these are all subjective things. They're not really objective. The reality here is that you're comparing Nitro V versus 154 CM, which are comparable blade steels. You're not getting the titanium frame lock, but you are getting a button lock with these wooden scales. And again, this is $20 less. If it was me, I would still pick my Penguin. Speaking objectively, it would be close to a tie. Here it is, next to the small Feldspar. These are very similar. Their blade shapes are almost the exact same. They're both thumb studs. They're both the same size. And even their handles here, while they have different shapes, this one's a bit more bulbousy and this one's a little bit more squared, still carry the same characteristics. Even their blade stocks are very similar. The only reason the Civivi's looks thinner is because we have chamfering up by the jimping on here, and then we have a swedge that carries on down. But realistically, they're very, very similar in their blade stock as well. To satisfy my own curiosity, I just measured the blade stock and the behind the edge. The behind the edge on both of these is coming in around 15 thousandths. Believe it or not, the blade stock on the Civivi is coming in at 115, while the blade stock on the mini Feldspar is coming in at around 105 thousandths. Now, that's where we're talking the bare bones function. And if you want a bare bones function knife, you can get one of those for 30 bucks. This is the Civivi button lock Altus, right? You get in these classy look, the button lock that goes along with it, the lanyard post, whereas the Feldspar is just a simple liner lock. I think for that reason, 90% of people would choose the Altus over the Feldspar, and it has nothing to do with the way it functions. It's more of a subjective aesthetic appeal. For just a size reference, here it is up against the Praxis and the Kershaw Bare Knuckle. And last, and maybe my current favorite Civivi, the Synergy 3. So what could possibly be bad about this knife? Nothing. I have nothing bad to say about the Civivi Altus. Since there's no bad, let's move on to the average. Realistically, the only thing that I can say is average about this knife, and this is me really nitpicking here, is the pocket clip. This is Civivi's typical fold-over pocket clip, which I wouldn't expect them to use anything else. It's just average. There's nothing special about this. But to be perfectly honest, I would rather them just commit. Okay, I know we're trying to satisfy the lefties out there, and you don't want to make a separate knife for lefties. I understand that. But sometimes with your flagship model, and you just want to do everything perfect, I think if you commit, you're making a best case scenario product. If it was me, I would have committed and done something special with this pocket clip, knowing that this Altus was going to be such a freaking hit. Well, let's talk about the great. That's what we're all here for, right? That's what you guys want to see? Yeah. The freaking action is great, all right? It's a button lock on bearings, and it is out of this world. But there's other things about this knife that I really, really think are great. I think for such a small knife, I think they nailed the ergonomics down. Right where my finger kind of rests, and it falls into here, and everything else just kind of grips around it, and it just feels locked in. I talked about that pocket clip kind of being dumb, and I can feel it. I definitely can. It's not like a crazy hot spot, but you can feel it. Now, if you were to create something without that dumbass bill, then maybe it would be even better. In use, this thing glides through material. It has that really thin blade stock, 115 thousandths, coming to about 14 thousandths behind the edge, which is perfect for EDC. You don't need something razor thin for EDC. You need something that you're going to whip out of your pocket, open up, and just start cutting material. And then be able to shut it real quickly and put it back in your pocket when you're done. And I think the Civivi Altus absolutely nails each one of those factors. This is probably Civivi's best knife ever. It's no secret that everybody's super excited about this and the Cogent, but I think they put a little bit of extra sauce into the Altus. And for me, if I had to vote for a knife from Civivi that's their best, I believe it's the Civivi Altus.